Hi, everyone. Welcome to App.js. First of all, I want to start with a huge round of applause for Software Mention. The team is amazing, super, super nice. I love Poland now, so. And also, of course, the Expo team, which has been amazing over the years, but with all the announcement of this morning, I'm a long Expo, so. OK, cool. So you can call me Ax. I'm a software engineer and entrepreneur working on Showtime. Showtime is a Web3 social network. And for the past 6 months, I've been working with my front-end team on rebuilding the whole web app and the whole mobile app. And we learned a lot about how to build a universal app. And we ended up building a whole design system with a lot of components. So I just want to take some minutes to teach you about what we learned and help you build your own design system. So how it started? So back when I was talking with Charlie about joining Expo, so in January 21, if I remember correctly, I was like, hey, Charlie, I have a crazy idea for Expo. It's a premium design system for Expo apps. You can use it to build your apps faster. Think of it like Expo modules, but for UI components. And why do people want this? Because you have less line of code to write, so less bugs. Designed and implemented by the best. Universal, so works with Expo Web and Next.js thanks to React Native Web. And responsive, because of course, multiple platforms, but also multiple screen sizes. Integrated with Expo APIs, because you want to use the Expo modules, of course, and also including native UI components, like if you want a drop-down menu or a context menu on iOS, for example. So I shared this. I chatted with Charlie for a while about it. We didn't end up building this at Expo yet, because it's quite complex. It takes a lot of time and money. But I eventually ended up working on this at Showtime. And just before I'm gonna talk about what we built, I just want to give some clarification about what I say when I say universal, because it can mean a lot of things. So for me, universal it's some code that runs on all the platforms. So you can think of it like cross-platform or multi-platform. But in this case, it's really also supporting web too, and in the future maybe desktop and other platform. And a design system is a library of UI components and other type of elements and components that share a common visual language. And so going back to what we are doing now with Showtime, after 6 months of working very hard, we just announced, actually no, I'm just announcing right now. So we just published on NPM 42 components of our design system. So we are actually getting there. But you would ask me, why do I need a universal app? Why do I need to bother with sharing code? And why do I want a shared design system? So I'll just tell you our story. And our story is we are a very small team. We raised a bunch of money, but we are still in this early stage startup phase where you want to go super fast. You want to iterate pretty quickly. We don't know what the future is made from. We are building a new paradigm with a blockchain technology. So we just want to go super, super fast. So we want one code base to build all our apps at the same time. But it eventually made us realize that it's making our code easier to maintain, because it's less code to write, it's less code to iterate on, less code to also throw in the trash. It's obviously making our team move much faster. We are only four full-time engineers on the front end. And it also forced us to create a very good app. So when I say a very good app, it's when you build for multiple size when you build for multiple platforms, you are forced to really think deeply about the UI components and also the user experience you are creating. And the more you invest time in your iOS app, for example, you will just eventually make it better on web too, for example. So it's really like forcing you to go deep in what it takes to create a good app. So coming to the how do you build a universal design system? So you can build your own. I really recommend to create your own monorepo with your package/design system folder where you can like create all your custom components. And you can also like use universal, so the set of components we are going to open source right now. So what's universal, you will say? Universal is not another like new framework. It's not another new like design system with very opinionated visual design. You can think of it more like a meta framework. So we are packaging all the knowledge that you can get from using Expo, from using Next.js, and making it very accessible and very easy to use. So we are building on top of Solito, we are building on top of Moti, we are building on top of all these crazy technologies that make you create a very good universal app. And I like to think of universal as the missing piece for React Native today, because Google, like Android and Flutter, does have material design. And it's pretty neat, even if everyone is hating on Flutter, it's nice for new developers to just use material design right out of the box. With Apple, you have, for iOS, iPadOS, macOS, and tvOS, Swift UI, which is pretty good too, and the human guidelines, the human interface guidelines. For React DOM, you can see new experiments like Radix UI, Headless UI, and Material UI, who all create very, very high quality, unstyled components that makes it much, much easier to create a good app. And so I'd like to think that now React Native has universal, and that's the missing piece that everyone was waiting for. You can think of it as like a superset of React Native components, which you should pretty much use even if you just do a React DOM app, because you will use the view, the text component, and all these great components that makes it much easy to like maintain your code. But also, like, as soon as you want a mobile app, you just have a mobile app. You just use Expo and create your mobile app. So it's merely what React should look like in the end. It's like React and React Native used together. It's almost a glimpse in the future, like what React will be at some point. Because we have React, we have React Native, we now have like React Native for web. We just need to stop this nonsense, right? It's like, it's React, it's the same community, we are all building the same apps. As Charlie mentioned earlier, it's like you want to go as fast as possible from actually creating your project to releasing it, and bringing the community together and building this kind of apps, which is probably the theme of this year at App.js, is a way forward. So yeah, that's universal. We want to help you create great iOS, Android, and web app for all the screen sizes and platforms. And so a little bit of announcement. I'll just like open source the monorepo because I've been postponing this for a while now. So here is a Showtime monorepo where we do have a lot of apps. So we have the Expo app, the Next.js app, the Storybook React Native app, which is a React Native Expo app that using all the stories pretty nicely, and the Storybook React app. And we also have the packages with our universal app and the design system. And so the design system is obviously what I've been talking about for a while. And so you can see that's pretty much a lot of work we did in the last 6 months. So I'll just go ahead and Let's do it. All right. Yeah. Huge shout out to my team, Nishan, Enes, Alan, Mo, everyone who worked on this. Like, that's huge. I'll just announce it on Twitter. All right. Okay, I just need to do this. Sorry. So anyway, I can continue with the slide. So you will see in this design system, we open sourced a lot of components. A lot of them are still like a work in progress. Of course, that's pretty hard to nail and to get right. But we are getting there. And the main difference with all the stuff we already saw is that's actually something we use in a real-world app. And to me, that's the main difference. Like, have you like created components that are battle tested, that are like used by real people in a real world app? And okay, let's go. Let's do it again. I'm sorry, guys. Nope. Okay. Oh, let's go. All right, so you can see the GitHub repo. There is a lot of things to build yet. Like, we don't have any docs, so it's only on Storybook, but it's already pretty good, so that's pretty useful. We released the components through Bit, which is a pretty neat platform, and so you can go on bit.cloud/showtime/universal. I already spoiled this, but on NPM too, and you can see the Figma file, who was designed by a very good designer. So as it's now like still tightly integrated with your app, it's still a good thing to have like the Figma file. But as soon as we are joined by other companies and other developers, we'll just like go away from our own design system and let people like have control over the components. So yeah, I'm really glad that we finally open source this. It's all like Web3 mantra to be very open. So you can see like everything we track via RudderStack, like all the analytics. But it's also like, to me, very personal. It's a way for us to help you learn how to create a universal app. And I always learn by just looking at code and going on GitHub. Like I learned to program at 15 years old by working on a private World of Warcraft server. And I remember like just going on Trinity Core repo and looking at the code, learning about C++, MySQL. So I just like want to pay it forward to all the new developers who actually try to make sense out of the Expo universal apps and all this mess. Because to be honest, we need to figure it out. So if you want to have a look, just go on GitHub, you can install it, you can import it, you can fork it, you can contribute to it. And if you have any issues, please just reach out. So a little bit more like details on what we actually do. So you can see that we import the view and the text from the Showtime.xyz universal components. And right now we use Tailwind because it's a very nice solution for us to do styling and theming. And it's very much how we want it to be for now. So we won't care about styling and theming. It's all about unstyled component, but for now you can just use Tailwind as we do, but that's very, very much recommended. You can see here dark mode and responsive design is made very, very simple thanks to this approach. So I'm very looking forward to actually improve this in the next version. We are going to use a new library called Tailwind CSS React Native, which will use actual CSS on web. So it requires a new version of React Native for web, but it's definitely the way to go. And it's working very well for us. It's also like what makes the React, like the universal React component look much better, because as a web developer, you can just catch up on Tailwind, because if you're a web developer, you probably know Tailwind already. So if you see this kind of code, which is actually React Native, you are not out of your comfort zone. You know what you're doing. So what's Universal UI? Again, I said it's a lot of high-quality components. It's working on all the platform, iOS, Android, and web. It's working with Expo and Next.js. So right now, we are very opinionated about this, but it's really the best way to build an app right now. So you can see a preview of all the components. We have a bunch of components that we tightly integrate with all the best frameworks, so Expo and Next.js again, but also Reanimated, Moti, Bottom Sheet by Mo, who is working with us. We are really like, we don't try to reinvent the wheel, except for the components that really need to. But otherwise, we just use what's best in the community. And also like paying it forward, improving them, sometimes for web support, obviously. I haven't put some details on it, but also the typography is pretty advanced. We use capsize to avoid the padding on the font, and it's something that you should definitely do. So I will release a blog post. I already did one on how to build a design system, and the next one will be how to build a great design system once we release V1. And you guessed it, for V2, it will be how to build a perfect design system once we actually release the unstyled components. OK, live demo. Wish me luck. I'll just show you the Showtime app on the web, because I don't want to take too much risk. So that's the Showtime web app. We just launched it a week ago. That's my profile. So I'll just focus on the components. So here is a tab view. You can click around, and like, I don't know if I have a good network, but you can click around and see like what I'm doing. You can see the following with a pretty neat modal. I can edit my profile again with a pretty neat modal. I have a drop-down menu here. I have a select here. There is a bunch of stuff happening here. I can also see like the search popover. Like, that's a lot of components on this screen. So I'll just try to show you the mobile version. Nope. And so on mobile, you can see it's exactly the same screen, but shrink down. And it's also like obviously the same that we share with the mobile app. But as you can see here, oh, sorry, the demo is not perfect, but it's not loading. But you can see that the components are like exactly the same. And so for example, the modal here is opening as a bottom sheet. So for some reason, it's not loading, but OK, it's opening again. Anyway, I'll just continue like this. So what I just showed you with the modal going to this bottom sheet like is actually quite complex to get right, because you need a pretty good navigation handling, so you don't mess it up. So we actually created this HOC called with modal screen, which is embedding the modal sheet, which actually like creates this on large screen the kind of modal you saw during the demo, but renders as a bottom sheet. And it will be very easy for you to just like add some props to actually make it swipeable like a real bottom sheet. You saw the menu, so on iOS, it will also render as a iOS menu, but on web, it's using Radix menu. Because, again, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, we just use what's already existing. So for the modal, on the left, you can see the native iOS form sheet. In center, you can see the centered dialog kind of modal, and on the web, the one I just showed you, the bottom sheet. So that's really a step forward from what we saw in terms of design system, because it's not just about the UI components. Like, of course, you can render a button everywhere, sharing the same code, but sharing modals and drop-down menu and all these complex UI and UX components are much complex. So I don't want to share some code because it's pretty advanced, so I don't want to bore you guys. So if you want to do this kind of stuff, just catch me after the talk, and I'll show you how it's done. But to me, that's very exciting, and that's taking the space a little bit forward. So again, like for the roadmap, for V1, I really want to use React Native Web v18 because it's finally accepting class name for web, so you can use actual CSS. So for media queries, it's much better, and a lot of other things. So that's what Tailwind CSS React Native is doing. We are working with Mark to implement it in our components. Again, it's still like alpha for React Native Web, so it's still early, so that's why I didn't want it to release it yet, but it's a work in progress. A big focus will be to work seamlessly in other apps, because right now it's working well for us, which is a good thing, but I want you to use it in your own app. And to be fair, like, I want to use it in my own side projects. So later on, we'll focus also on accessibility and docs, because that's very important, and we want to get support from the community. And for the V2, we want to ship with the unstyled version of the components, so you don't, like, if you don't like Tailwind, I feel you don't have to use Tailwind. You'll be able to just use the components as they are and create your own visual design. And hopefully for V2, we'd get support for big players like big companies and other startups that want to actually help us building this. So for the contributors, of course, that's myself, but also Nishan, which has done like an amazing job. Mo, who is working with us from the Margello team, big shout out. Alan and Enes, who just joined. And maybe you, like, we are doing this to create a great community project. So if you want to contribute, and I know some of you already reached out on Twitter, like, just raise your hand, like, just find me and we'll get you on board. I'm very looking forward to meet you all. And for the sponsors, right now it's Showtime. So as I said, we have a lot of money in the bank, but we also have like a lot of things to experiment on. So I won't spend my time like full time on this, obviously. So if you want to sponsor our work, like Expo, Software Mention, I'm looking at you right now. Just like let me know, and we'll find a way to make it work. Again, it's all about the people, right? I didn't make my slide pixel perfect. I didn't want it to like go deep in details. We can talk about it later. It's all about connecting with the community right now. So I've been so grateful for this opportunity to meet with a bunch of friends now, because we have been talking for like 2 years or maybe like more for some people. So let's just get around and like, we can do a meetup in the chill zone after the conference, after the talk. And if you are building a universal app, I want to learn more about your experience. Fernando will be here to talk about Solito and help you get started. I can even like get you on board with Universal if you want to play around. So yeah, that's here, chill zone, after the talk. We'll have some fun. So yeah, again, thank you very much, everyone. I have some time for questions. I really wanted to like make it chill. So like, do you have any questions? Yes, David. So the question is, what's the advice for the younger version of yourself? Yeah, of myself. I mean, last talk I did was 5 years ago at the family in Paris, and it was called From React to React Native. And I tried to share components with the style component style, and I already like tried to like share some code because I knew there is like some value in it. But it was pretty hard. So to me, the best advice I can give is start with a monorepo. Like you definitely need a monorepo. Now it's pretty easy, again, thanks to the work we did with Fernando. You can create a monorepo. It's very, very well supported by Expo now, by Next.js too. So create a monorepo. Don't be afraid to like just import stuff, customize it, export it again, create your own library. Even for Solito, like you will see on the code base, but we actually do a lot of custom stuff on top of the library. And it's the same with what you will probably do with the design system. You will just import the unstyled component from Universal and build your own. So don't be afraid. Go deep, patch the node modules if you want to, but make it yours. And on a more personal advice, I would say like, yeah, again, it's all about the people. Like, find your community, find your people, stick to it. Like, it's what matters. I've been so lucky to be working with the Expo team, with Fernando, with Nishan, and all my team now. It's what kept me going, you know? It's like, if you have good people around you, you will do your best work with them. So, yeah. Is there, yeah. I don't know about the time, but do we have time for more questions? Like 1 minute. Nope? Yep.
Thank you for your awesome presentation.
Thank you.
There are a lot of packages.
Yeah.
Are you reusing, like for example, your home blockchain or some like those? Are you reusing the packages or do you implement them by yourself?
So everything lives in the packages/design system, but everything is also released through Bit and on NPM. So we actually re-import all the packages from the other packages. So you don't have to use all the package, but if there is some dependencies from like one package to another, it will be automatically handled by.
What if you're reusing somebody's package?
Yeah.
And then, for example, it's not maintained anymore.
Yeah.
Something goes wrong with it,
Yeah.
Or the creator of this package decides to go another way.
Yeah.
If you're using it, you want it to become, you want it
To improve.
to
Yeah.
stay like
Yeah.
aligned with your approach.
Yes. we'll just fork it. That's the magic of open source. So for people online, the question was, what's your plan if a company stops maintaining a package, or if a maintainer goes down and you are using this package in your own components? So we'll just fork it. That's also something we did recently. Alan just forked the React Native tab view component. So huge shout out to Satya, who is here tonight. But it's not maintained the way we would like it to be. And so Alan just forked the component. And we are taking on the burden. So that's why we also need more contributors and more sponsors, so we can actually move the community forward. But yeah, we'll take this burden. We'll actually help a lot of components and a lot of people maintaining their own library. So we actually sponsored Solito. We actually worked with Fernando to sponsor this. We work with Mo for supporting the bottom sheet on web. We are doing a lot to invest more in open source. We also work with Software Mention right now, so we can actually make React Native Reanimated better on web. So small spoiler, we are going to port the Babel plugin to SWC. So if you use Next.js, you will be able to actually use the new compiler using SWC on web. So we really want to make the whole React Native for web ecosystem better. And again, I say React Native for web, but it's just React. Thanks. Thank you, guys. See you later.